Hey everyone, I'm here with my tutorial on the Rattrap written by Salma Logerlof, a Swedish writer whose stories have been translated into many languages. In 1909, she became the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. A universal theme runs through all her stories. That is, the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. The story is narrated in the manner of a fairy tale, as it begins with "Once upon a time." It leaves behind the message that emotions of love and acceptance can reform others. Once upon a time, there was a vagabond who went around selling small rat traps. He made them in his free time from the materials he got by begging. This business was not profitable, so he had to beg and even steal to survive. His clothes were in rags, his cheeks were sunken, and hunger gleamed in his eyes. His life was sad, lonely, and boring, and with heavy feet he would walk along the road, lost in his own thoughts. One day, an amusing thought crossed his mind. He felt that the whole world was nothing but a big rat trap. All the comforts, joy, and riches were just like cheese and pork, which we offered as bait to catch the rats. Thus, according to him, as soon as someone got attracted to the comfort or joy or luxury or riches, he at once got trapped into the rat trap, which was known as the world. Now, people had not been kind to our protagonist, so he got immense joy to feel that those who had troubled him or had been unkind to him will soon be tempted to get caught in this rat trap. One evening, walking slowly, the peddler or our protagonist came across a small grey cottage. He went there to seek shelter for the night. The owner, who had once been a crofter and was lonely, was happy to receive a guest. He shared that in his days of prosperity, he worked at Ramso Iron Works. Now, his cow supported him. He even shared that he had earned 30 kronor by selling cow's milk and went to the extent of showing the money and the place where it was kept to the peddler. The next morning, both of them woke up early. After milking his cow, the old man locked the door and went to his work, and the peddler thanked him and went on his way. But the peddler returned to the cottage after half an hour. He broke the window pane, took out the money from the pouch, placed the pouch back, and walked off. The peddler, after stealing the amount, was pleased with his smartness. He thought of walking through the forest and avoid public highway lest he should get caught. Initially, the task seemed easy, but later it became difficult as the forest was quite big and confusing. He tried to walk in a definite direction, but the paths twisted strangely and were confusing. He walked on and soon realized that he had been walking around in the same part of the forest again and again. At this point of time, he started thinking that he himself was caught in the rat trap of the world just like all the other people. He was fooled by the bait of 30 kronors which he had stolen from the old man's house. The entire forest, with its trees, trunks and branches, seemed to him like a prison that offered no escape. It was the month of December, and hence it became dark quite early. As it got dark, the peddler's hope of escaping the forest reduced. The danger to his life increased, and so did his hopelessness. He was completely exhausted, so he sat on the ground terrified and thought that this was his last moment and soon he would die. As he laid his head on the ground, he heard a strong and regular sound coming at specific intervals. He realized that it was the sound of hammer strokes from an iron mill. This made him think that he should find people nearby. With this thought, he gathered some strength and started walking with great difficulty towards the direction of sound. Now, here the writer describes the Ramso Iron Works. So this Ramso Iron Works, or this iron mill, was a large plant which had shut down few years ago. It had a smelter, a rolling mill and a forge. In summers, long flat-bottomed boats carrying the material would come down the canal which led to a large inland lake for supplying material to the mill. And in winters, the roads turned black because of the coal dust that came along due to the transportation of charcoal crates. On one dark evening, just before Christmas, the master smith and his helper were sitting in the dark forge near the furnace. Both of them were waiting for the pig iron which was put inside the furnace to be ready to put on the anvil. They took turns to stir the liquid as it was very hot and made them sweat profusely. Different types of sounds, such as bellow blowing air in the fire, cracking of coal, clatter of charcoal shoveled by the fire boy, could be heard in the forge. The sounds coming from outside the mill included waterfall and high-speed north wind which hit the raindrops against the brick-tiled roof. It was due to these sounds that the blacksmith and his helper didn't realize that a man had opened the gate of the forge and had entered till he came and stood near the furnace. Many homeless people used to get attracted to the lights of the forge, which peeked through the window panes, which were covered with the black powder of burnt coal. They would seek shelter and warm themselves. As the blacksmith and his helper were accustomed to visitors, they were indifferent to the peddler too. They just gave him a glance. The Rattrap seller's appearance was similar to other wanderers. He had a long beard, wore dirty, worn-out clothes, and had a bunch of rat traps hanging from his chest. The peddler tried to seek permission to stay in the forge for that night. The blacksmith allowed the peddler with an arrogant consent by just nodding his head. The peddler too didn't utter a word. Now, the owner of Ramso Iron Mill in those days was a very ambitious person whose aim was to sell only the finest iron into the market. Therefore, he used to keep a check on his workers both during the night and the day. The owner was on a night inspection visit when the peddler entered the forge. The ironmaster's eyes immediately fell on the peddler, who was sitting so close to the furnace that steam was coming out from his clothes. He went near him and removed the wanderer's hat so that he could see his face clearly. He mistook him for an old army fellow soldier, Niels Olof. Now, the peddler here showed his cunningness and did not try at all to clear this misunderstanding, thinking that the ironmaster might give him some money out of pity. Instead of revealing his identity, the peddler began a conversation with the ironmaster by saying that things didn't go well with him. According to the ironmaster, Niels Olof had made a mistake by leaving the regiment. He also added that if he would have been working in the regiment when Niels had resigned, he wouldn't have let him do so. Later, he invited Niels Olof, or our peddler, to his house. Now, the peddler didn't find it to be a good idea to visit the ironmaster's place. He was frightened with the thought of visiting a soldier's house, which, according to him, was not safe. After all, he had the stolen money with him. He didn't want to put himself in danger. His intentions were very clear. He wanted to sleep in the forge and then go away from there without even being noticed. The ironmaster tries to make his companion, that is our peddler, comfortable by saying that he should feel free to come to his house as it was an ordinary one. He shared that his wife was no more and both his sons were settled abroad. Only he and his daughter were left at home. He invited him to celebrate Christmas with them so that he and his daughter may have some good company during Christmas. Though The ironmaster made several attempts to invite him, but the peddler didn't accept his invitation. So, at last, the ironmaster told the blacksmith that Storm, it seems that Captain Von Stanley wanted to stay with you. And here the ironmaster refers the peddler as Captain Von Stanley. Now, after this, he laughed and he went away. But it was only the blacksmith who knew that there was something hiding behind that laughter of the ironmaster. And that was revealed just after half an hour, because after leaving from the iron mill, the ironmaster sent his daughter. He hoped that his daughter may bring his friend or our peddler home, as he believed that she was better in persuading others. The ironmaster's daughter entered the mill with her attendant or the valet, who was carrying a big fur coat. She wasn't pretty looking, but seemed humble and quite shy. She walked up to the peddler, who was resting on the floor, and lifted his hat. The peddler used to sleep with one eye open, and as soon as he saw her, he got shocked and jumped up. She introduced herself as Edla Wilmanson and expressed her empathy towards the peddler. She explained that she had come to take him home with her father's permission. Edla had sympathy for the peddler, but then she noticed that the reason behind his fear could be that either he had committed robbery or a jailbreak. So, in order to make him comfortable, she stated that the peddler was free to leave their house at any time, but she wanted him to stay with the family just for Christmas Eve. Edla's polite statements were something which she had never experienced earlier. So the peddler felt confidence in her and accepted her invitation. The peddler wore the fur coat offered by the valet and started following the lady. He didn't even bother to notice other people. But while proceeding towards the ironmaster's house, he felt that some evil was about to approach him. And that moment he started cursing himself that if he had not stolen the money, he would not have got trapped like this. The next day was Christmas Eve. Both the ironmaster and his daughter were at the dining table. The ironmaster said to his daughter that they had to do something good for the peddler, ensure that he becomes healthy, and then find some better job for him. But Edla felt it very strange for the peddler to have been through this hard time. She was also doubtful about him being educated. Hearing this, her father clarified that it was due to his bad condition. Once the man would get clean and dressed up, he would behave differently. While the father and the daughter continued their conversation, the peddler entered looking well groomed. He was wearing ironmaster's clothes and shoes. The ironmaster seemed extremely angry looking at his guest, as now he could make out his appearance well and realized that he was no friend of his. It dawned upon him that he had mistaken some stranger as his old friend. He screamed and asked for an explanation from the stranger. The peddler didn't pretend at all, as he was ready for the consequences and felt that the luxurious treatment had come to an end. He stated that he should not be blamed. He was just begging for a stay in the forge. He added that he had not harmed anyone and was ready to wear his rags again. To this, the ironmaster hesitated a bit and said that the peddler had not been quite honest, and so now he wanted to call the sheriff. The peddler gets enraged listening about the sheriff. He strikes the table hard with his fist and declares his philosophy. He repeats, saying that this world is a rat trap and all the good things around us are just like a bait. He also points out to the ironmaster that he may today be imprisoned by the sheriff, but one day the ironmaster will also get trapped in this manner. The ironmaster begins to laugh, hearing the statements of the peddler. Though he did not like the words of the peddler, but he decides not to call the sheriff. And without wasting any moment, he tells the peddler to leave the house at once. But just as the peddler opens the door to move out, Edla intervenes and, going against her father's will, she closes the door. Edla feels quite embarrassed at the entire incident. She recalls that since morning she was planning how she could make the peddler's day happy on the occasion of Christmas. She had just not imagined that things will take such an ugly turn. Hence, she could just not let the peddler move out of her house. Then she tries to explain the difficult life of the peddler to her father. She elaborates that the peddler, being a wanderer, has to keep on moving as he hasn't any permanent shelter of his own. He is never welcomed no matter wherever he is. He has to be constantly worried about his safety and live with the fear of getting arrested. Hence, she wanted him to enjoy this Christmas with peace, as they had promised him the same. So, they should not send him away. And this explanation leaves the ironmaster speechless. The only thing the ironmaster could say to his daughter was that she was better than even the priests of the church in convincing others. But he also warned her that hopefully her decision would not bring an adverse effect on them. Edla took the peddler to the table and offered him food, as her father had consented to her wish. The peddler didn't say any word and started eating, though he was doubtful about her intentions and was wondering why she stopped him. The peddler went to sleep after having food. He did not cause harm to anyone and lay down on the sofa in one of the guest rooms. He was once woken up in the afternoon, but after having his lunch, he again went to sleep. It was like as if he had never got the chance to sleep so peacefully as he had got at this place. In the evening, the family woke him as they had to light up the Christmas tree. He stood there blinking as if he was getting hurt by the bright light of the candles. He again went to sleep. Finally, they called him for the dinner of Christmas fish and porridge. After the dinner, the peddler thanked everyone. Edla said that the clothes which were given to him were a Christmas present from her father, so he could carry them with him. She also invited the peddler to be with her family for the next Christmas Eve and promised that nothing bad would happen to him. The peddler was left speechless. He only stared at the daughter of the ironmaster with boundless amazement. Next morning, the ironmaster and his daughter left for their Christmas service early in the morning. They didn't disturb the peddler as he was sleeping. In the church, Edla and her father got the news that a Rattrap seller had robbed one of the old crofter of Ramsor Ironworks. It immediately struck them that he was the same man whom they had sheltered as their guest. Knowing this left Edla dejected, while the ironmaster blamed his daughter, who insisted to give shelter to a thief. And then immediately his second thought went back to the silver cutlery in his house, and he wondered how many silver spoons must have been stolen by the peddler. Reaching home, the ironmaster inquired about the peddler from the valley, stating that he was a thief. The valley informed that the peddler had left, but instead of taking something from their house, he had left a small Christmas gift for Miss Wilmanson. Edla opened the gift, which was packed roughly, and let out a cry of joy. There was a small rat trap, 3 wrinkled 10-kroner notes, and a letter. The peddler, in his letter, had thanked Edla for taking care of him as if he was a real captain. He had requested her to return the stolen money to the crofter. He expressed his gratitude by stating that it was she who had set him free from the rat trap by raising his status from a mere peddler to a captain. At last, he had signed the letter as Captain Von Stale.